Hi there, this question is question number 5 from page 240 of your textbook based on chapter 9. So this is taken from your textbook chapter. So this accompanying table represents the hourly output and cost structure for a local pizza outlet which operates in perfect competition. Total fixed costs are $3 per hour. And this table gives you the hourly quantity produced, and for each quantity the variable cost and total cost are given. And notice that for each quantity of output, the difference between the variable cost and the total cost is simply going to be the fixed cost. So if you add $3 to any of these variable costs, you'll get the corresponding total cost, because fixed cost is $3. Okay, so what I have done is I have calculated the marginal costs for producing each of these corresponding quantities. For example, marginal cost of producing the third unit is the difference between total cost of production of 3 units minus total cost of producing 2 units. Or you could also calculate the same value by taking the difference of variable cost of producing 3 units and variable cost of producing 2 units. So either of them would give you the marginal cost. So here the marginal costs are given, and part A asks you, if the price is $10 per pizza, compute the hourly total profit for each of the quantity labels in the accompanying table. I am not going to compute the total profit for each of the quantities, but all you needed to do is find the difference between total revenue and total cost for each of these quantities. And total revenue would be simply the price times the corresponding quantity, and total cost is given here, so you can solve that. Second part of part A asks us, what is the profit maximizing or loss minimizing quantity label? What is the maximum profit or minimum losses? So let's solve that part. So here, if price of pizza is $10 per unit, then we know that in a competitive market setting, the marginal revenue is $10. Every extra unit this firm produces and sells brings $10 for 10 additional dollars for it. So marginal revenue is known to be 10, and marginal cost rho is just calculated here. So just like any rational person, this firm would keep on producing more and more as long as the marginal cost of production is less than or equal to marginal revenue. It will not produce the quantity levels or increase the output to a level where marginal cost is rising above the marginal revenue. Okay, so looks like if marginal revenue is $10, this firm is going to produce up to 7 units, because that's the last unit where marginal cost remains to be less than or equal to $10. Beyond this 7th unit, this 8th unit costs $11 extra but brings only $10 extra revenue, so it doesn't make sense to produce this 8th unit. Okay, so if this firm produces, it will produce up to 7 units. So let's see how much total revenue it gets if it produces 7 units. 7 times 10, $70, and the total cost of producing these 7 units is given in the total cost column, which is 32. So this firm would definitely produce 7 units, because total revenue is significantly bigger than the total cost, and you can find the profit very easily by deducting 32 from 70, which would give you, I think it's $38. Part B asks you to rework Part A, assuming that the price drops to $3 per pizza. Well, $3 seems a little too low to me. Now I know that if this firm produced, it would produce up to a level where marginal cost is less than marginal revenue of $3. So it would have produced 4 units in total if it produced, but whether it would produce or not depends on whether the total revenue is bigger or smaller than even the variable cost, right? That we saw in our chapter 9 discussion, that a firm does not produce if total revenue cannot even cover the variable costs of operation, i.e. price is not even covering the average variable cost. Okay, so let's see how much the profit is. If the profit is negative, even then it might produce, as long as the total revenue is bigger than variable costs. So if this firm produces 4 units, the total revenue in that case, in part B, where price is $3, is going to be $3 times times 4 units, $12, whereas the total cost for producing the 4 units is $14. So this firm is making a profit of 12 minus 14, negative $2, so loss of $2. But then making loss doesn't necessarily mean that this firm would shut down. Whether this firm would shut down depends on whether total revenue is even less than the variable cost. So let's check if total revenue of 12 is less than even the variable cost. So looks like the variable cost is $11. So it makes sense to produce, because if you operate, you make $12 and variable cost of operation is $11. So you make this one positive dollars, which can contribute or help you minimize your loss a little bit, even though you're making losses. So here, just because you have already spent $3 as fixed cost, if you operate, your profit is going to be this $2, because the total revenue was $1 more than the variable cost. But if you do not operate, you're going to lose $3. So answer to part B is this firm will operate and make a loss of $2 rather than $3 by shutting down. Let's see what part C asks us. Rework part A, assuming the price of drops to $2 per pizza. So $2 is probably going to be a little too low for this firm to operate, but let's double check. If price is $2, if this firm operated, then this firm would operate up to the level where marginal cost is less than or equal to marginal revenue. So maybe it will operate, if it would operate up to maximum of 4 units, even though regarding the 4th unit, this firm is actually going to be indifferent between producing or not producing the 4th unit, because the 4th unit is bringing $2 of extra revenue, but it is also costing him $2 extra. But suppose that when the firms are indifferent, they just produce this that extra unit. That's our assumption to simplify our discussions. So this firm will produce up to 4 units of pizza if it produced, in which case the total revenue would have been 4 units times $2 per unit equal to $8, and total cost would be, as given by the total cost column, $14 for 4 units. So in that case, profit would have been 8 minus 14 equal to negative $6. This farm, you can already see that this farm will not operate in this case. It will shut down because by operating it is making negative $6 of profit, whereas by not operating, i.e. shutting down, it would make only $3 of losses. So $3 loss is better than $6 loss, so this farm would not operate, it would just shut down. The other way to look at it is, well, here the total revenue by producing is even less than the variable cost. That means by operating you are bringing in $8, which is not even enough to cover your operation costs, so it doesn't make sense to operate. So in this case we can say that this farm's quantity of output is going to be 0. That means this farm would just shut down.